unfold.
When you picture Antarctica, what do you see? I bet it's just this vast, endless, white desert, right? But what if I told you that all that ice is just a temporary costume, and that underneath there's a world that was, and is becoming again, green and incredibly volatile? Okay, let's just dive right into that idea, because it's a big one. What the science is telling us is that the ice we see today, the Antarctica we think we know, is actually a geological anomaly. So we're going to take a journey back in time to uncover this continent's true face, a trip that's going to tell us just as much about our future as it does about the past. And we're not starting the story millions of years ago. No, we're starting right now, on the absolute front lines of climate change. We're looking at a place they've nicknamed the Doomsday Glacier. And believe me, it has earned that name. This is where the continent is literally breaking apart with shocking speed. So right now, this one glacier, Thwaites, is responsible for about 4% of all global sea level rise. You might be thinking, 4%? Okay, that doesn't sound catastrophic. But that number, well, it's just the tip of the iceberg, hiding a much, much bigger threat. Because this is the number that keeps scientists up at night. If this whole glacier goes, if it undergoes a runaway collapse, it holds enough ice to raise global sea levels by over 3 meters. That's about 10 feet. This is the true scale of what we're talking about. And here's the crucial thing to understand. This isn't just a simple melting process. This is a mechanical failure. You got to think of this floating ice shelf like a cork in a bottle, holding back this immense glacier. Well, that cork is now losing its grip on the seafloor, and it's literally shattering from the inside out. And this just shows you how fast things are escalating. In just a handful of years, the flow rate has jumped by nearly 70%. You see this kind of acceleration in engineering when a material is getting dangerously close to its breaking point. It's a huge red flag. I mean, this analogy from scientists who study this stuff is just so powerful. Picture that. It's not a solid block of ice anymore. It's something that's lost all its internal strength, covered in a web of fractures, just waiting for that final push to completely disintegrate. But it's not just about the ice physically breaking apart. As the continent thaws, something else is happening. Beneath that fracturing surface, a whole ancient world of chemistry and biology is waking up. And it's re-entering our atmosphere and oceans for the first time in thousands of years. And this isn't just one problem, it's a whole cocktail of them. You've got massive amounts of methane, a super potent greenhouse gas that could kick off a dangerous feedback loop. You've got toxic heavy metals getting into the food web. And yes, you've even got ancient viruses, zombie viruses, coming out of a deep freeze. Each one of these is its own serious threat. Now, this is absolutely wild. Scientists have actually seen these enormous plumes of methane just erupting from the seafloor. What's happening is that frozen methane is thawing, and when it does, it expands to 160 times its original volume. It's a literal explosion, powerful enough to trigger underwater landslides and even tsunamis. So while the seabed is exploding, the surface is, well, it's turning green. The amount of land covered by plants on the Antarctic Peninsula has grown by more than 10 times in recent decades. Mosses are growing so fast that, for the first time in ages, soil is actually beginning to form on the continent. And in that thawing ground, you get things like this. Scientists have actually taken these ancient zombie viruses and revived them in the lab. This proves that these pathogens can survive for tens of thousands of years in the ice, and that poses a real risk to Antarctica's modern animals, who have absolutely no immunity to them. Okay, so everything we've seen so far feels wrong, right? Unnatural. This awakening continent seems totally alien. But what if it's the opposite? What if Antarctica is actually returning to its natural state? To understand that, we have to travel back in time, way back, to see what this lost world was really like. You see, it wasn't just continental drift that put Antarctica on ice. It was this incredible biological event. Basically, a tiny little fern blooming in the Arctic acted like a giant global thermostat, sucking incredible amounts of CO2 out of the air and turning down the planet's heat. The process was pretty simple, but unbelievably powerful. For nearly 1 million years, these ferns would bloom, die, sink to the bottom of the ocean, and take all that carbon with them. This one plant single-handedly crashed the planet's CO2 levels and plunged the world into the icehouse state that allowed those massive ice sheets to form in the first place. And before all that ice, Antarctica was a land of giants,
I mean, forget the cute little birds we know today. On its beaches, there were penguins as tall as a person. These things were the apex predators of the southern oceans.
And it wasn't just in the water. On land, you had these things aptly named terror birds. These were huge, flightless, carnivorous birds. Finding their fossils proves that Antarctica wasn't some barren wasteland. It was a complex and thriving world.
All right, let's take one final jump even deeper into the past. We're going back 90 million years. And I want you to prepare yourself because this version of Antarctica sounds like it's straight out of a science fiction novel. But I promise you, it's real. This number right here, this is the whole story. By analyzing a soil core drilled from a fossilized rainforest on the Antarctic seabed, scientists figured out the CO2 levels back then. And the takeaway is simple. At these levels, a permanent ice sheet physically cannot exist. It's just not possible.
And what does all that CO2 get you? A mean annual temperature of 12 degrees Celsius. That's about 54 Fahrenheit. For a region at the South Pole, that is incredibly mild. And to put that into a perspective you'll definitely recognize, yeah, believe it or not, this created a temperate rainforest with a climate a lot like modern-day Seattle. But here's the twist. Imagine that Seattle climate, but plunged into 4 straight months of absolute, total darkness every single winter. It's just wild to think about.
Okay, this is where our journey loops back on itself. This is where all these stories from the past become a truly terrifying roadmap for where we're heading right now. The past isn't just history, it's a warning.
And here it is. This is the punchline to our whole journey. It took a biological process, almost a million years, to slowly bury all that carbon and cool the planet down. And in less than 200 years, we've dug up that same ancient carbon in the form of fossil fuels and pumped it right back into the air, forcing the climate back towards that hothouse state at a terrifying speed.
So in the end, we're not really breaking the planet. We're resetting it. We're pushing it back towards its historical average. A green, warm, ice-free state that our civilization has never, ever known. It turns out the ice was temporary. The green Antarctica is the norm. And that leaves us with this final, really chilling question.